West Ham fell short at the London Stadium earlier on, and where did it go wrong and why did it go wrong? That's what we are here to discuss. Welcome back to West Ham Unofficial. Liverpool came and beat us 2-0 this afternoon, and we barely laid a glove on them. And we're here to discuss the frustrations and where it could have been different. Sam is joining me en route back from the London Stadium. Sam, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad at all. It was an annoying, especially second half and frustrating. We spoke at half time and it was okay. Like, we said that we weren't great, but it's still 0-0. And I just, by the end, I just got incredibly frustrated that we didn't really apply pressure in the right areas to a vulnerable Liverpool side.
I think first half we were all right. We didn't do
Yeah.
anything particularly exciting, but we didn't do anything wrong. I thought that defensively we looked quite solid. Mavropanos, that was probably his best half in a West Ham shirt.
Mm.
But second half we just didn't come out at all. Something happened to Bowen about a minute into the second half, and he had
Mm.
clearly picked up some sort of a knock on his left ankle.
Yeah.
And it didn't look the same after that. Like he kept going down, holding his ankle. He wasn't running after the ball like he normally does. But yeah, we just at no point did we really look like we wanted the win.
No. And it was like, I was there and I was like, just apply some pressure here, press a little bit. And if you noticed in the second half, there was one point where we pushed up a little bit. Canate didn't really know what to do, and he just side-footed the ball out over to your side.
Yeah,
And we all looked around and went, "What's he done that for?" And that was the smallest bit of pressure, and he didn't know what to do, and he just like he didn't hoof it, he just side-footed it out. Like they were vulnerable, but we didn't do anywhere near enough to try and exploit it.
just I think when we looked at the team lineup at the beginning,
Mm.
it was probably our best 11 players that were available.
Yeah.
Um, certainly you look at the bench and you go, okay, there's no one from the bench that particularly I want in the starting lineup. So
Yeah.
we're making it's the best of what we had. But I don't know where Paqueta was meant to be playing. But if he was meant to be on the left, he certainly wasn't on the left. And then
No.
we brought on Guillem or
Mm.
Gilheme, as they pronounce in the stadium today,
Oh,
like
very good.
new name every week. And he was sort of the same. He was like, well, I don't know where I'm playing either, but
He sort of
I'm certainly not
floated.
gonna,
I
I'm
mean,
certainly not
yeah,
going to play on the left. And they had a centre back at right back, and I
it
just don't
made little
understand why we
sense.
weren't just
Yeah.
flying down. I'd have personally, I'd have moved Bowen over there, like just at least do something. Run at this player that doesn't know what he's doing, and every time we did run at him, he he, he lost it. Like he shoved Jiff over in the first half. He should have got a yellow card for that, to be honest. Like ref didn't even give
Yeah.
a free kick, but it was a stone cold yellow card. Um, but yeah, we just didn't look like we wanted it, and the players we brought on. I felt Sutek came on a bit late, but then again, if he's not coming on up front, to be honest, what's the point? Like he
Mm.
hasn't got the legs for midfield. At least he showed some heart, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, apparently it was a foul by Fulkrug that led to the incident in the second half. So at least that meant that he was doing something. I'd rather he was giving fouls away, making
Just
lazy
doing nothing.
than doing nothing. So at least he did something. He looked like he kind of wanted to sort something out when he came on. He just didn't quite work out for him, which is fine. He's been out for a long time. And he's lacking confidence, but it's just so frustrating. And I
Mm.
said to you before the game, it's the hope that kills you with West Ham, and that is exactly what it is. This is a Liverpool side that, on paper, are in the top 5 teams in Europe. They're
Yeah.
definitely in the top 3 sides in England. And yeah, okay, they're out of form, whatever. And that out of form made us think, look, you know what? An out of form West Ham might have a chance against this out of form Liverpool team. Whereas normally in every other season we go, oh, look, Liverpool are coming. They've got £300 million worth of strikers on the pitch. We probably haven't got a hope in hell against that when we're going to play the Greek bloke and either Tabido or Max Kilman alongside him. But we took this hope and it killed us because Liverpool were nothing today. There was one mistake in the defence for their first goal. And I think that was Mavropanos. Isak just walked away from him and he didn't see it. And then a goal that was it was against the run of play. I'd say both of them actually were against the run of play, which is ridiculous in a game where we didn't have the run of play at any point, except for the fact when they scored their 2 goals. But yeah, it wasn't good.
It wasn't. And I mean, we were talking about Isak around me. I was like, I haven't noticed Isak, and then 2 minutes later he side foots it into the back of the net, which is just sod's law. But it was I felt that, I mean, especially down that left-hand side, I was like, they've got Joe Gomez, who isn't a left back at left back, and Paqueta wasn't out there. Paqueta was roaming, and you bring Guilherme on, you think, right, Guilherme's a natural left winger, so you think he's going to go out there and just try and isolate him. And then he floated around. I mean, Guilherme had a little bit of energy and tried to bring the ball forward a few times, but he was like central and then not really committed to the left-hand side. So we basically neglected the whole left-hand side. I thought, but Bowen looked poor and he looked like aggravated in the second half with whatever sort of issue that he'd picked up. And I was just like growing in frustration, thinking this is a side that can be got at here, and we're not at all utilising any, of. I mean, would you bench? But like Bowen looks out. I mean, we looked out of ideas, but Bowen looked out of ideas today. Even in the first half, I was thinking he's going to turn up today. He's had a quiet few weeks. Every time he gets the ball, takes it down, it's just not enough. The cross gets blocked, or he gets the ball nicked off him. He's starved of confidence, Jarrod Bowen. I don't know how that returns, Sam. To be honest.
No, and it's hard to know with a player like Bowen. A bit like with Rice, he's clearly got a knock, and he wants
Yeah.
to try and play his way through it. But we were talking, the guys I was just saying, we were saying that we probably need to rest him, give him a week off, and that will probably get him over whatever knock he's got. Because a bit like Rice,
Yeah.
he'll just sort of bounce it off. And I wonder if that is what we need to do against. It's Man United midweek, isn't it? And
That's the thing.
maybe
Do
we
we
do
just
need
leave him
to
out?
rest
Just
him.
leave him out for Man United
And he needs,
completely.
don't. He can't travel. If we're going to drop him, it can't be to the bench. Otherwise, it's pointless. But
Yeah.
go with 5 at the back. Go with the attacking wing backs. We know they're going to push forward anyway, so that might make us a bit more solid at the back. We know when we play that formation, it doesn't really suit Bowen either. So there's a reason to leave him out. And I think maybe we'd have done it, except for Paqueta's now obviously out for that game. I'm guessing Somerville is still out for that game. Or we're not going to play him because he'd be rushing him back. And to take Bowen out of that as well, suddenly you're starting to look at who are we going to play in those positions to make it
You're looking
work.
at
And
scraping the barrel territory, aren't you?
yeah, and the only thing I can think is that maybe we went with some sort of 5-3-2 with the Magassa, Fernandez, and Potts midfield, and then we put 2 up top, and we go, okay, Fulkrug and Wilson up top. At least we'd have some presence up there. They can both hold the ball up for the other 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is why I'm not paid to be
Yes.
a stand manager.
Lewis said, all this rubbish I read about us potentially winning 3 or 4-1, we don't do that. We make things harder than they need to be. We were our worst enemy. We were today, and that sums it up. Like, the opportunity was there and we missed it massively with a gift that keeps on giving in situations like this, for sure. Bowen struggled today, absolutely. Larry, I hope you are well. Jack says, even everyone, I wouldn't bench Bowen because he's so important to West Ham. What Paqueta done today was disgraceful. It's like he wanted to get a sent off. Very selfish of him to do that. So let's talk about that. I was losing hope at that point, and it just all seemed, it was like a melee. It just seemed to be getting out of control. The ref didn't really know what was going on. He was like walking away, and then Paqueta kept going back for more. And I said to the person I was sitting next to, I was like, he needs to just calm down here. The yellow card came out. I went, that's stupid. The red card came out. I went, what on earth is he doing? And then we've had a response from Paqueta, a rather ill-tempered response on Twitter after the game, something along the lines of, if you're a federation that doesn't offer any support and try to convince and accuse somebody of for 2 years of being, of wrongdoing, then maybe this is what comes out because of it. Which again was probably an ill-advised tweet and thing to do. I thought it summed up all of the built-up frustration where we hadn't done what we should have done today. Really,
I'm really pleased he's finally said that about the FA,
yeah,
because it's needed to be said for a while, and he should have said it weeks ago. However,
yeah.
it does not explain how he was today at all.
No.
I didn't even see him get the first yellow card.
Neither did
It
I.
must have
I
been,
just saw yellow and red. I was
yeah,
like,
it was just,
what?
yeah, yeah. But apparently both those yellows were in that same melee. I didn't see the first one get issued, and I'm wondering if Paqueta did, because even when he got the
Yeah,
red, he was like, "What? What?" It was quite clear that he didn't
yeah,
quite understand why he was being sent off. But when you've got the
right.
opposition goalkeeper coming up to the halfway line to lead
Trying to
you
drag him
away
away.
from it, and that's your mate, like that's
Yeah,
Allison as his mate coming up and going, "Look, Lucas, stop it."
just leave it. Yeah,
You probably need to be doing something, but I think it points to the real issue, or one of the big issues that we've got, is that lack of leadership. Because Bowen was sort of there, but he wasn't doing anything with Paqueta. Like
he was just a bystander. He just stood next to him
yeah,
as he let him do it. Like, yeah,
yeah. And then even when Paqueta got sent off, and it was quite clear he didn't want to leave the pitch, Bowen started walking off the pitch, got to the edge of the centre circle, and then let him left him to his own devices. He should have been
yeah,
taking him all the way off the pitch at that point, going, "Look, go back, calm down, sort yourself out. Like, we'll be back in there in 20 minutes. Like, just go and sort yourself out." And instead, he sort of does half the job of this captaincy. And look, he's our best player over the last, well, bar Rice, he's our best player of the last 10 years, I would say.
yeah,
He's a great signing. He does try his hardest for the club, but I don't think that captaincy's working for him, and today really showed it. The ref was terrible today. He was in
yeah.
Liverpool's pocket, and I'm not. That is not why we lost the game. We didn't lose because of the ref, but the ref was a 12th man for Liverpool a lot of the time today. But that's when Bowen should have been in his face, and I think instead what's happened is it's built up and up and up for Paqueta, who
Yeah.
didn't get anything called on him all day, and there were certainly some fouls on Paqueta. And then he's gone and exploded at the ref, and that's why he can't be our captain. But at least he was doing the talking to the ref. And
Mm.
yeah, he's an idiot. I imagine that his ban will probably get extended now by the FA. Because how dare he challenge the FA? But at the same point, I'm really pleased that he said it, because I think it needed to be said. It probably needed to be said when he got um, found not guilty, or whatever the term was they used. But
Yeah.
it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating.
I noticed when he eventually walked off, because he seemed like for a period he was like, I'm not going anywhere. Like he clearly wasn't done with whatever he wanted to say. So he just sort of hung around a little bit. And when he went off, he like sort of tried to clap the fans and like, as if say, he clearly wanted them to clap him off. People were standing up, like throwing arms and going like that, and all the rest of it. And I thought that was quite damning. People were frustrated at the performance, but they were like, Lucas, that was really, really unnecessary. I think you're probably right in the sense that he probably didn't see the first yellow card, and then all of a sudden he's got one, and the reds come out. But it was a very very ill-judged period where again Bowen didn't stand up and recognise that Paqueta was quite clearly annoyed, and maybe he didn't think the ref would send him off for dissent, but he did. And maybe it's a lesson for Bowen as well. And the fact that Allison ran all the way up and basically dragged Paqueta away, that was one of the most damning parts of it. Let's take some comments. We didn't move the ball at the pitch. We did, but we couldn't finish. No action in the box, which
True.
could be due to Liverpool's solid defence. I feel like getting forward was few and far between, to be honest. Like, I mean, we did get forward, and I mean that Bowen chance that he struck, and it just went just over and wide. Like at the end, like that was the chance. Like we also looked at it, I was like, right, that's it. Still at 1-0. That seems like the big moment to try and get back in to the game. I was talking with the people around me, and we were like, "So Nuno took Wilson off last week on a hat trick on 52 minutes when he was ripping it up. He was probably the best player on the pitch, and he was being the difference. Today, I didn't notice Wilson once, and he lasted 75 minutes or whatever it was before Fulker came on. Wilson quite clearly wasn't there today. Like, he didn't have an impact. He didn't hold the ball up. He was pretty non-existent, and he lasted another 20 minutes compared to when he was amazing last week. I'm just starting to grow a little bit irritated at some of the substitutions and decisions Nuno is making.
There wasn't really anyone on the bench, so was there? Fulcrum
No,
was terrible last week.
yeah,
So I can see why he didn't bring him on earlier. I think if anyone was going to grab us a goal, if you had to have a strike on the pitch to grab you a goal, you'd want Callum Wilson ahead of Fulkrug, I think. So I wasn't.
I thought
I
he'd
was
have
more
went to
surprised that
Souček earlier. That's what I was
I was
expecting him to
surprised that
do.
Souček didn't come on a bit earlier.
Yeah,
But it's just it almost felt like we were ready to make that change, and then Liverpool scored, and it was almost like he went, well, I can't now take the striker off and bring on a midfielder
yeah,
in check, which I think is probably what he was about to do. And then because they scored, he was like, oh, no, I better not do that. And I can kind of see that because, again, we've both been around that ground enough to know that that would have got the fans really sort of G'd up in the wrong way. But it did feel like a game for Souček. Because they didn't like it on them at all, Liverpool. I didn't think their defence was particularly solid. I thought that in the final third, we just weren't quite there. That last ball into the box wasn't quite there. The 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 play when the ball was there wasn't someone at the end of it. Whether that was Wilson, whether it was Fulcrum, whether it was Souček, whether it was Bowen, like none of them were quite in the right position. But actually, I thought in the other areas of the pitch we weren't that bad today. I thought Paqueta was trying hard, which is all you can really ask for him. But his end product wasn't there. I think Potts is looking better and better each week and
yeah.
really growing into that role. I enjoyed Magaste getting a proper run out today. I'd guess he'll play now because Paqueta doesn't get obviously into the next game, so I'd guess it'll be Magaste in that role, or sort of taking up that position. You know what I mean? And I thought he played all right today. We were just outdone by a good goal from Isak when he lost the defender. Where if you pay 135 million or whatever for a goal scorer, he's going to do that eventually. Okay, he hasn't done it all season, but that is because he hasn't been match fit. Maybe he's starting to get there. And then a counter-attacking goal at the end. We weren't great, but then again, nor were Liverpool.
No,
Um,
exactly. And it's a sense of I walked out thinking I've seen worse performances from West Ham this season, but it's definitely more in the worst half. And you think if we'd have turned up with one of our worst performances this season against Liverpool at home in recent years, then it'd have been a lot more than two. And maybe that reflects more on them than it does us. However, it just feels, yeah. I mean, the fans were up for it, of course, with the desperately sad news that we heard before the game about Billy Bonds, and I thought it was really nice on the fourth minute actually. When there was a sort of collective Billy Bonds Clanton army ring round
yeah,
the London Stadium, and it was even when they scored their first goal as well. It sort of started up again, and the fans tried today, but there's just nothing came back, unfortunately, and we were just desperate for something. And I did think that we'd turn up and it would be a contest today, but it wasn't to be. Andy, thanks for joining us. Paqueta's final ball sometimes is not very good. Let's be honest. I mean, it is. Paqueta can be dreadful. Like, let's not beat around the bush. He tries to find that perfect ball far too often. And whenever he gets the ball now, I'm in the back of my head. I'm thinking, right, who's he going to lose it to this time? He's a skillful player. He's a luxury player, and I think people's patience with him is starting to dwindle quite quickly with that today, and with some performances we've seen this season. I sense people are beginning to lose their patience with him, and you can't blame them for that because I mean I can't remember the last time I walked away from a West Ham game thinking Paqueta was a difference today. I can't.
no, it would be before all the FA stuff. I would say
Yeah,
there was a guy in front of us today that when he got sent off, he went, "That'll be the last we see of him in a West Ham shirt. That's the sign of someone that wants to go." I'm not sure about that. Like he's
I'm
he's
not
come out
sure.
so many times this season saying he doesn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
That for like if that is what he's saying, like you need to make your mind up. But I think if he does go in January, and I think it probably is possible because we can probably still get 30-35 million for him, something like that. I don't think it'll be to another team in England. I
No, I
think he's
think he'll
probably
go
going to
back
the
to
Premier League.
Flamengo or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see. Paqueta had a selfish act and shows he's not playing for the badge and for the fellow players. Mandy, hi everyone. What I saw today was my team without a decisive captain playing with no real intent to win because they fear losing. Sullivan destroyed the West Ham way. I mean, I think today was more like we didn't have. I think the intent part is bang on. Like the intent was not there today, and that's what we were all desperate to see. We spoke about the first goal. And we spoke about the first 20 minutes, really trying to get on the front foot. And I said in the vlog after 20 minutes, I said this isn't good because we're letting Liverpool dictate things. We're not rattling them and trying to press forward early, and that just carried on through the whole game, Sam. So it got to a point where we were like, let's, we're not trying. And the very few occasions we did slightly give them a tap on the shoulder, then they looked a little bit rattled, and we were like, there we go. They'll probably go and get beat next week, whoever they've got. They weren't very good, and we just were even worse today, unfortunately.
They were when we put it in their faces.
Yeah,
They aren't. We defensively they are not a great side. They're going to score goals with the attacking threats they've got. They're going
yeah,
to score goals, but defensively they are not a great side. The problem for West Ham is that today, attackingly, we were not a good side. If we talk that West Ham way comment, like we were talking about the West Ham way might before the game,
yeah,
just pure fluke. And we were saying that it isn't necessarily style; it's players that really play for the shirt and things. And it's I thought there were a few of them say that really did, and like I think Potts in particular, he's the epitome of West Ham way. I think that the Greek bloke today, I think he really played for the shirt. I think Bowen always does. He wasn't good today, but he always plays for the shirt as much as he can. He didn't give up. Wan-Bissaka similarly, non-stop for 90 minutes today. I don't think he put a foot wrong really in the game.
yeah.
So none of that. None of those players that didn't play for the shirt, so that isn't the fault of the chairman. That isn't the fault of anything like that. That's that maybe we haven't got a bit of quality. Maybe that's a little bit of confidence not really being there, which is understandable because we've not been good this season. We're our second manager of the season, all that sort of stuff. Third manager in a year.
Yeah.
So you can sort of understand that, and we're fighting for our lives at the bottom of the league, and we're playing, as I say, on paper, one of the best teams around. That at some point are going to come good, and today they had glimpses. So I don't think it's anything to do with West Ham way. I don't think it's anything to do with the chairman today. I think it is just that today we weren't good enough, and actually in every other season for the last 10, West Ham not been good enough against Liverpool is fine. And I think we do need to sort of remember that it is still Liverpool. They are still the champions. They're doing all right in the Champions League. I know they play badly this week, but they're still a team that have beaten some big teams this season. They've beaten Real Madrid, and now they're beating West Ham, which puts us in the same category as Real Madrid, which seems about right.
Lewis said this team is far too soft. Liverpool could have not won a game all season, we still would have lost today. Bowen seems too timid to be captain. We're lacking true leaders on the pitch. There's been constant speculation over Bowen's captaincy since he got the armband, but the truth is we don't have any leaders or genuine alternatives, in my opinion. I agree with that. To be honest, there's no real people standing out at the moment who is stepping up and being heard in that sense. Tired of watching my team struggle season after season. Indeed. Rest in peace to Billy Bonds, a true West Ham legend. Yeah, just devastating. I mean, I heard it whatever time it was, 11:30 this morning, and a full tribute is being paid at the Villa game in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, it's just dreadfully sad news. Legend is a word that is chucked around far too often in the footballing world, but it is one that is most certainly valid for Billy Bonds. Just horrendous news to hear this morning. I thought Mavropanos should have scored from a corner in the first half. It looked like he simply missed the ball. And when we were coming forward, Sam, I kept noticing that whether it was the ball was coming out wide, it was the cross was being blocked or just the wrong pass, and it all felt like wrong place, wrong time going forward throughout the entirety of the game, and there was no fluidity with our play going forward.
100%. Yeah, I think some of our play was telegraphed, and you can't do that against good players.
Yeah,
It was quite like if we can tell what they're going to do in the stands, players that have spent the week watching what we do are definitely going to know what was happening.
yeah,
But yeah, there just wasn't that. There just wasn't that final ball all day today. And when there was a final ball, the person wasn't there for it. And
yeah.
yeah, it's almost the story of our season that when we do something good, there's just that one bit missing at the end, and it's kind of where, yeah, today maybe we needed to check a bit earlier. It's the sort of those sorts of balls we were playing today, the sort of ones that Antonio used to get onto the end of, and yeah, we just sort of lacked that little bit at the end, that little spark at the end. And I think if we had scored today, I think it would have been a draw. And I think if we'd scored first, it would have, as I said in the preview, I think it would have destroyed Liverpool.
It'd
But
have been interesting, yeah, but we
yeah,
didn't. We didn't have the impetus
we
to
didn't.
sort of push forward and try and control them in that sense. Lewis says the reality is that if Bournemouth or Brentford at home to Liverpool today, they probably win 2 or 3-1. They try and take the impetus and take it forward. So we are behind those sides, and that's where today we were thinking let's try and take a step forward, but wasn't to be. Liverpool were desperate with their antics from Alisson being prone in his goal first half, and it got worse from there on. Just shows how poor they are at the moment. Bowen, Wilson, and Paqueta is not enough to keep us up. Sullivan needs to find a striker. I mean, again, today is a perfect example of how we cannot rely on Callum Wilson to, be our striker and our source of goal through the entirety of the season. He was very good last week at Bournemouth, absolutely, but lack today. And is he really going to be able to play another hour, 70 minutes on Thursday and then Sunday? I'm not entirely sure. We're soon going to find out. But yeah, that's where January comes around, where we're not going to hold our breath signing a striker because we know what we like. But yeah, it's just reinforced that again today. They've all lost it. Backroom discontent between the new, old, and Nuno. Nuno revealed he's a one-trick pony and turns into a threat of like Paqueta. Guilherme will eclipse him. I mean, Guilherme today, he was a little bit lively when he came on. He was poor at Bournemouth last week, Guilherme, for the 45 minutes he had. I thought it was a bit harsh to take him off at half time. He looked a little bit lively today, but it was misdirected in the sense of, as we said earlier, he wasn't out wide really trying to isolate Joe Gomez. And whether he will now come in and probably play the full 90 on Thursday, Guilherme potentially. He's a player that we're going to have to use when we do play 2 games a week in the upcoming month. December's a busy old period, son.
Yeah, I thought he was all right when he came on. But it just felt like he was going. He came on from Magassa, I think,
Yeah.
and so he went. Okay, I'm going to play the game that Magassa was playing, which yeah, just seems strange. Whereas it was telling when Sucho came on. The first thing he did was go over to Bowen. He went, "I'm going up top." Like I've got no interest in playing in midfield. I'm going up top. We need to get the ball whipped into me. You literally the first thing he did. And yeah, it just felt like just didn't really know where he was meant to be playing.
No.
And really, what we wanted from him was for him to stick out wide, make that pitch. It's such a wide pitch, make it wide, stretch Liverpool, and then something could have happened. But yeah, he was at least he showed, as you say, he showed some intent. He's got some pace, and yeah, I wonder if we can get a goal out of him at some point. Whether maybe it might just make his confidence rise.
Yeah. Yeah, give him a chance, play him just like that, and you could have some serious service. I mean, I was a little bit encouraged today. A couple of the runs forward, and I'd expect him to play Thursday with everything that's happened. So, yeah, we will.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Sam, in terms of Nuno, before we wrap things up, there's not a great deal we could have done today. I think he could have made a couple of substitutions a little bit earlier and a little bit differently if I was in charge. But would it have massively changed the outcome of it today? I think it was just down to poor, a poor intent from the players. Whether that's come from him, who knows? But it just feels like a missed opportunity. And how much, are you frustrated with Nuno today, or are you looking at the players and going, you just didn't step up?
I don't think it's necessarily a manager thing today.
Mm.
Any player for a club like West Ham shouldn't have needed a team talk today. With the news before kickoff, with everything else, with the crowd sort of up for it because of that, it shouldn't have needed a team talk. Those are players that should have just been able to go out there and absolutely give it their all. And a lot, some of them did, some of them didn't. So I don't think it's necessarily new. I think that the bench today, there was absolutely nothing there, really, with any class. We've got a paper thin squad, and we've got players that are out. So I don't think there's much that we could have done. I agree with you. I'd have brought on Souček earlier. I'd have, maybe brought Guillem on a little bit earlier. I'd certainly have tried to get Paqueta off when it was all going on, and it didn't really seem like there was much going on with that. And I do think it was telling that when he eventually did get off Paqueta, Slot was telling him to go down the tunnel, but there was no one from the West Ham backroom staff that came out. There was no one that sort of walked him back down the tunnel. There's no one that went down there with him, and there probably did need to be that. Just someone putting their arm around him, and it doesn't matter how pissed off with you are. There was 60,000 people in that ground that were more pissed off. just take him down there, get him to cool down, and maybe don't get him to put that tweet out. Like whatever it is, just he needed an arm around him. He was clearly frustrated, and I don't think he's probably a negative presence in the changing room or anything like that. But it was just telling that no one from Nuno's team went down there with him. Nuno didn't come to the side of the pitch, even if just to tell him that he was pissed off with him. There wasn't even that. It was just, oh, we'll just ignore it. And that was the only worry that I had from today about the management was what's that sort of pointing at.
Just seemed like it was all in disarray. Like, I mean, I'm just watching back the clip here, and it was like Van Dijk ushered him away, then Gakpo ushered him away, and like Bowen's just nowhere to be seen. Like, it took ages for I felt watching it. Like, it took took Paqueta ages to get off the pitch. I'm like, this guy's not going anywhere. Like, he was quite clearly making a stand, and then absolutely right. Someone needs to put their arm around him and cool him down, because he probably then wouldn't, at 4:31, so 25 minutes after the full-time whistle, put out a tweet saying it's ridiculous to have your life and career affected for 2 years without any psychological support from the federation. Perhaps this ridiculous behaviour is just a reflection of everything I've had to endure, and it seems to have continued. I'm sorry if I'm not perfect. And, that's just intensified the backlash that he's received. And, just probably sums up the day, to be honest.
I do
Yeah.
make him right on the FA, and it did need to be said. It's just a shame it was said after a red card when he looked like a clown.
Yeah, when he made himself look like a Wally, like that was the perhaps not so good part of it. Sam, that's my final thought. Not the best day for the Hammers.
Yeah, not great. I think that there are some positive shoots. There's some positive things that we need to focus on. And I think if we can continue those positive bits, we've got a chance. But we need to look at some of those players that just aren't doing quite as much as what we expect of them. The Bowens and a few others. Try and work out behind the scenes what the reason for that is. And if they've got a knock, rest them. And if we lose 12-0 to Man United on Thursday because we've rested some players, but then that means that we win some games over Christmas, I'll take it. I don't really want to lose 12-0 to Man United, but I'm not going to that game, so that's why I worry about it slightly less. But yeah, we just need to. They need to be looking at that squad as a whole and going, hey, who's performing, who's not, what's the reasons, and yeah, just try and sort some of those things out. And I think we need some honesty about what's going on with Summerville as well, because it didn't look like anything against that he went off with, and he's now missed 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
So
it's
we need
bizarre,
some
isn't
honesty
it?
from the club as to what's going on there, just so as that we know as fans.
For sure, for sure. Final few comments. I sent my hat off for Bonzo today, as did others around me, but I was surprised and disappointed that as a collective we didn't make more noise. I did, it was nice, but I expected just a little bit more. Maybe we'll get it at the Villa game. But I look around and just try and get the crowd up, and it's just it's hard work. It's hard work, and today maybe if we'd have looked a little bit more encouraged on the pitch, then more people might have stood up. But I mean, everybody should have been getting involved in that today, and it made its way around the ground. But I, for one, agree, and I certainly expected just a little bit more from everybody involved to try and generate just that bit more of an atmosphere. Jack says we definitely need to sign a striker, a centre back in January ASAP. Florian Wirtz was our best player. I think West Ham it could have been a bit more street smart and direct. Absolutely. I mean, we were so indirect, it was ridiculous. Two massive things learned today. Bowen's not captain material, and Paqueta doesn't care about West Ham. Bowen and Paqueta were horrible today. If we don't learn from this, we go down. I think we've shown in the last few weeks that we've got enough, but again, today was a step back. There's no two ways about it. We've made some step forwards in the last 3 games, but today was quite a big step back. And regardless of if it was Liverpool or not, it was a mid-table Liverpool, and it felt, if we'd have done that against, I don't know, Palace, there'd be a lot more people angry tonight. And I know Liverpool are better than Palace, and I know that they've spent a lot more money than Palace or a team like that, but of course, they haven't got Isak coming on. But it felt like if we're going to take Liverpool as face value as they are, then we've really not done ourselves any justice today, Sam.
Yeah, with the exception, I think, of Wan-Bissaka, just because he is a right back, I don't think there is any West Ham player that would get into the Liverpool side. And I don't just mean that as in from this game. I just mean in general, what West Ham players do we think would actually get into that Liverpool side? And I think it's probably only Wan-Bissaka, and only at the moment they haven't got a fit right back.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because we're clubs at different stages with different budgets, with all those sort of different things. But I think that's sort of almost sort of how we need to look at it. That yeah, at the beginning of the season, had you offered most fans 2-0 loss to Liverpool, we'd probably have gone, yeah, all right. When we looked at what their attacking lineup was, when we just lost 5-1 or whatever it was to Chelsea, we have grown since then. I'm not worried about us going down at the moment. I know we're right down there, but I think there are at least 3 teams that are worse than us.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
yeah, but agreed with the yeah, we need some new signings in January, and I would be focusing on a goal scorer.
Sure. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Let's try our very hardest to find somebody that can score goals. I know it's hard, but let's try, and let's double our feet again and see if we can this time prove to be lucky in that sense. There we go. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for watching. Drop a like on the video and subscribe to West Ham Official if you want to put your thoughts in the comment section. We'll talk about this more on the Premier League Roundup show tomorrow, and a little bit more coverage coming in the week before we turn our attentions to Manchester United on Thursday. It feels weird playing 2 games in a week. It feels Europe-esque. But yeah, so Thursday we head to Old Trafford. Sam, thank you very much indeed for joining me tonight, and have a safe trip home.
No worries. Thanks, Jake.
From us, come on, you irons. I think Sam's holding the phone, so we can't do. Oh yeah, you can do it. Yeah, there we go. Come on, you irons. Thanks to everybody for getting involved in the chat, for all of your comments and thoughts, and we will see you soon right here on West Ham Official. Thank you very much, and bye bye.